What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the King Closers Formula. I am the King Closer, RJ Bates III, coming to you on this beautiful Tuesday at 2:22 p.m., just like we do every other Tuesday. Today, we are going to be talking about seller psychology and how to master that. We're going to be using specific examples of problems that arise either during acquisitions or post-contract signing. How do you overcome those? These are common questions that are asked inside of our free Facebook group, The Vault, inside of TU, and just what I've experienced over the past decade of wholesaling in all 50 states. So I hope you guys enjoy today's episode, because if you do, here are the plans. We get solid feedback from y'all saying, man, this is good. This is going to become a new product that I will break this down into more in-depth, use specific examples of me actually closing or overcoming these types of objections moving forward in our low-ticket offerings with the King Closers War Chest, maybe sometime around that Thanksgiving holiday, maybe the day after Black Friday, something along those lines. We're always looking to provide you guys solutions and answers so you can succeed wholesaling anywhere in the country. So that being said, you guys know I love to find out where you guys are tuning in. I see some regulars in here. We got Kente. What's going on, Kente? Kente, I'm curious. Are you 18 yet? Are you allowed to start wholesaling? I'm just curious, man. Where are you guys tuning in from? Tyson, what's going on, man? From the Big Island. Aloha. We got Veronica in the house. Dallas, Texas. What's going on? What's up, Antoine? Good to see you. TU in the house. Philadelphia. Am I supposed to call it Jersey? Is that how I'm supposed to say that? I don't know. Augusta, Georgia. Houston, Kansas City. We got Houston, Texas. Alan's at summer school, also in Hawaii. What's up, Alan? AJ, Winter Haven, Florida. Baytown, Texas. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you like today's video. Let's get into the seller psychology mastery. All right. So the first problem that we're going to talk about is what happens when a seller gets cold feet after signing the contract. Now, this is one of the worst circumstances, right? Because honestly, you cannot force a seller to sell their property. Now, there are protection tools and elements like a memorandum of contract, but realistically, as more and more wholesale regulations come down, like states like Oregon and Pennsylvania, and I've seen some of the other ones come down the pipeline where sellers really have no recourse whatsoever. Actually, the buyers have no recourse, us, against the seller if they decide they no longer want to sell the property. So this is where those shady closing techniques are going to become more and more irrelevant inside of our industry, because sellers are actually now just going to have the right to say, hey, you know what? On Tuesday, I wanted to sell you my property, but now on Friday, I don't want to sell you my property. I'm terminating the contract. And it is what it is. Now, the way that I handle this is you have to truly understand the seller's motivation. And I talk about motivation until I'm blue in the face, and I'm going to keep talking about it because it is the most important element of closing deals. Truly understanding and putting yourself in the seller's shoes and like grasping the concept that they are selling a piece of real estate, a house or a piece of land for discount, right? They could sell the house for more money, but they're choosing to sell it to a discount to us. Because if it wasn't for a discount, then they could sell it for the same price that we're going to sell it for, or even more. So at any point in time, they are taking a haircut on a deal that they sell to us. So you need to understand that motivation. So if a seller does sign a contract and they come back to me and they say, hey, RJ, I no longer want to move forward with this, I can point back to that motivation. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, the other day when we were talking, you explained to me, insert motivation. These were the reasons why you were wanting to move forward with selling me that piece of real estate. What has changed since the last time we talked? The reason why you really want to get down to it is you want to make sure that they're not just wanting to sell the contract to or sell their property to someone else because someone else came along and offered them more money, because then that's a completely different type of objection to overcome. If it's truly they just no longer want to sell the property. So, for example, say this is an inherited property. A common motivating factor for us as wholesalers. There's been a death in the family. The property's been inherited. They want to sell the property. We come along. We offer the solution. But now the family has decided we no longer want to sell this property. We want to keep it in the family. We're not the solution at that point. You should absolutely release them from that contract. Allow that property to stay in the family. That is what that person, that seller needs. Now, if they come along and it's because Joe Blow wholesaler came along and decided they want to give the white glove equity protection program, then that's a different type of objection that you need to overcome. And you need to explain the difference between going forward with you in this transaction and what that person is possibly signing up for by moving forward with the competition. So really understanding that motivation early on during the initial contract signing, and then if the seller comes along and says, I've got cold feet, I no longer want to move forward, truly identifying the reason why they're wanting to cancel this contract. Is it a legitimate reason, or is it because something else came along? More than likely, it's someone that wants to offer them more money or a different solution and kind of just close them on this picture perfect scenario. So this is how I always overcome that. Pointing back to that motivation, asking questions. It's almost like a reverse of the King Closers formula where it's like, hey, I needed to understand why you wanted to sell us. Now I understand. Now I need to understand why you don't want to sell me the property. Sell me on it, explain it. Now there's going to be situations where they won't give you those responses. They won't even give you the time of day. Listen, I don't want to move forward, cancel the contract. I don't want to do this anymore. Here's my question to you. Is it worth the headache to try to salvage that deal at that point in time? Or is it more important to focus your efforts on just finding the next seller that truly does want to move forward with you? So it's worth that singular conversation. Don't get lost in the weeds with trying to have multiple upon multiple conversations, saving a deal that doesn't need you or want you anymore. All right. The next seller psychology issue that we have to overcome, and this is one of the most frequently asked objections to overcome, is the multiple decision maker. All right. What happens when we're talking to the seller and then insert, spouse, sibling, attorney, realtor, family friend? I need to discuss this with them to move forward. All right. So this is why it's very important to make sure that you go through the closer's formula. First question that we ask, are you looking to sell this property? Yes. How much are you asking for the property? We understand their asking price. We understand that we verify that they want to sell us the property. Then we discover their motivation, and then we go for the close at the end. All right. So normally this objection is going to come up towards the end once we've come to an agreement and we're trying to get them to sign the contract. Now insert this multiple decision maker, right, that comes along. Questions that you need to ask. All right. You want to discuss this with the other party. What happens if that party doesn't want to move forward with the transaction? What are you going to do? Is that person ultimately the decision maker? If so, can I have the opportunity to discuss this directly with that other decision maker? What happens if you guys disagree? Say you want to move forward and your wife, your sibling, the realtor, the attorney says no. Who really is making the decision here? Because ultimately, there can only be one decision maker. So, really understanding who is that true decision maker. At any point in time where there's multiple parties that are making this decision, you always want the opportunity to be able to speak to that person directly. The worst thing in the world that could happen is you go through the entire closer's formula, explain everything, come to an agreement, and then rely on that person to relay the exact same information that you just gave. Because remember, they are not real estate professionals. So there's going to be questions that they cannot answer, or they might not remember how you explained it exactly to that third party that is a decision maker in this process. And you need to explain that to this person. Listen, I'm not trying to convince y'all to do anything. I just want to make sure I have a fair opportunity to be able to explain this to each and every person that's making a decision. And you can even point back to the original psychology that we were trying to overcome, which is getting cold feet after signing a contract. I absolutely don't want you guys to get cold feet. I want you to be completely comfortable with signing a contract with me. So I would love that opportunity to be able to explain this to your wife, your brother, your sister, the realtor, the attorney, whoever that other decision maker is. We want the opportunity to be able to speak to them. The next thing is ask this decision maker point blank, is there anything that I did not explain about this process that could concern you to not want to sign the contract? Does this person have any questions? And are they using another decision maker as an excuse? Now, there are types of people out there that are old school, and no matter what, they're not going to make a decision that same day. This is very common with the elderly. Listen, the way my process works, I've lived on this earth for 75 years, and I'm not going to make a decision today. I'll make the decision. I'm going to sleep on it. I'll make a decision. For example, my partner and good friend, Nick Robbins, he does not make any important decisions after a certain time in the day. Now, he says 5 p.m. I'm going to call bullshit on that. Sometimes it's 4, 3, 2 p.m., all right? He likes to sleep on it and then make a decision in the morning. That's just his process, and it served him well. Same things happen with sellers. You have to be understanding of their process, how they're really digesting this, what somewhat emotional experience can be, and make sure you don't step on their feet and try to convince them to do something that's out of the norm, because it can push them into that first bucket, which is getting cold feet after they sign a contract. The third one, emotional hijacking a conversation. All right. This is where sellers get emotional. They derail the logical conversation that we're trying to have. Sometimes they can get, they can cry about maybe a death or something that happened with the property. Maybe they can even get angry, right? And you guys have seen this with my seller calls where it's been all over the place, pointing back to specific examples of where I spoke to the young lady in Alabama whose husband was murdered in a mass shooting, and she needed to get rid of her property because she built it and lived there with her husband. And so she could not move on from this traumatic event. That was a very emotional conversation where there was tears and there was a lot of emotions going through her about selling her and her husband's property. Similar circumstance was the brother who called me in Fairbanks, Alaska, whose brother that I was speaking to and I made the offer to was murdered outside of a bar in Fairbanks, Alaska. Again, very emotional. Going to the other side of things, when a seller can be extremely angry, sometimes we ask a question, it triggers them. Maybe they're just angry about the whole situation that they're in. Sometimes the anger might not even be pointed towards you. It can be pointed towards the county that's trying to foreclose on the property because of back taxes, or the mortgage company that screwed them over that loan modification, and they're super upset that they're even facing foreclosure. There's a lot of different scenarios. One thing that I want you to understand is sit back and be patient. Allow the emotions to run their course during the call. One of the worst things that you can do during this is interrupt and make the seller feel like they're not being heard. And this is a massive mistake that the majority of our industry makes point blank, is not listening enough. Allow a seller to get to the end of their thought and give them even more time, because maybe they're still not done composing themselves to express everything that they need. So really sit back, allow them to express all of these emotions. And when that's done, give them understanding, give them empathy about their situation. Validate that you've heard everything that they've said. I'm so sorry about this situation. I wish that you didn't have to go through this. What I can say is, in regards to the real estate, I can be a solution. And maybe that's a small victory for you, considering everything that you had to go through. Now you've transitioned back to talking about the real estate, but they feel validated in the fact that you have heard what they've said. It's a difficult conversation. And what I will tell you is, anytime you have a very highly emotional conversation with a seller, immediately following that, you should take time to decompress yourself. It is alarming how much these types of conversations can take a toll on someone that is doing hours upon hours of acquisitions. So don't get lost. Don't feel like you need to just keep beating the phones, because you need to be present for each and every one of your seller conversations. Case in point, there's nothing that promises that the emotional seller that I talk about her husband getting murdered in a mass shooting at his job, is not followed by the angry seller who's upset with the mortgage company who is stealing their property now. Now, it's going to be really hard for us to shift from the emotions of dealing with someone's husband who's murdered to now dealing with someone that's upset about financial distress and a mortgage company. So you need to make sure that you yourself decompress so you can be 100% present during each of these conversations, to make sure that you're listening, you're not interrupting, you understand their situation, you can show the empathy that is needed, and then solve their problem by buying their real estate. That is how you deal with these types of highly emotional conversations. Realistically, coming out of them, what you should realize is that for the vast majority of the beginning of the call, you do next to zero talking. It's just listening. And then when it's your opportunity, you make sure you validate that you've heard what they say, you show them that empathy, and then offer the solution. You might have to do that multiple times during the conversation, but if you do that, what I've experienced is, more often than not, you will see success. The next one. Oh, this is a popular one, especially with the discounted PPL leads, cold calling, direct mail. What happens with the competition? Oh, other wholesalers are calling me. I've been called by so many of you guys. Just make me an offer. All right. Listen, defeating the competition in the wholesaling industry is not very difficult. As much as it might seem like it is right now, because you're missing out on deals, it's probably because that other wholesaler is overpaid. That does not mean that you don't know what you're doing or you're being defeated by your competition. It's just a temporary setback. All right. I posted a live seller call yesterday on directly how I defeated my competition. Here's the question that you should always ask when this objection comes up, especially later in the call when you are attempting to close the deal. Me and Teresa came to an agreement on price. Then she lets me know that she has 2 set appointments with the competition. I asked her a point blank question. Is there something that my competitors are offering you or could offer you that I am not? Now, see, this is a very broad, open-ended question. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with, is there something that they are giving you that could solve your problem better than what I believed I was doing with the offer I just gave you? Now, this is very important because a lot of times we point everything back to money. We always think that whoever offers the most amount of money is going to win the deal. But that's not the case. That's us sitting in our seats as the real estate professionals and believing that money is the most important thing to each and every seller. And that's not the case. Sometimes it's the convenience. Sometimes it's the timeline. Sometimes it's also the willingness to just sit back and listen to what is most important to the seller. So, for example, with Teresa, it was about the fact that she needed plenty of time to find another property to move into, pack up all of her belongings with living in the property for 40 plus years, and be very, very lenient on the time frame in which we are going to close. Now, we set a closing date for on or before 90 days, but if it ends up being 180 days, that is completely okay. And Teresa knows that, and I know that. That was discovered during the motivation phase, asking her what is truly most important about this deal. And it was understanding her situation. So in turn, what happened? I made her an offer. I made her an offer of $55,000 when she was asking $60,000. We settled on $57,250. I'm sorry, Chris Voss. I split the difference. All right. I believe we can do that, especially when it's a deal. $60,000 was a deal. $57,250 is a better deal for me. So we settled on that price. The competition then came along after me with their set appointment and offered more money to Teresa. But she decided to move forward with us for less money. And the reason why is because of the convenience and the understanding of her situation. This is one of the ways that you defeat the competition, but really, ultimately, the best way that you can defeat the competition is by point blank asking the seller, what is the competition potentially offering you that I'm not? Ask that question and really sit back. Sometimes the answer will be, well, they might offer me more money. And that might be the case. That might be the most important thing to that seller. But if you've asked the right questions earlier on, you will also understand all of the other motivating factors that the seller has, and you should point to each and every one of those and how you are solving those better than they will. And then that's where you can ask. So what's more important? An extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, or making sure that these items also get taken care of? At the end of the day, I want you to understand, our competition sucks. They suck real bad. Just go watch videos on YouTube of listening to other wholesalers talk to sellers. Some with big followings. They're very proud of these closings. When you really, truly listen to them, they're not solid conversations. Very rarely are they really listening to the seller's needs. They're just fitting it inside of their script and their blueprint, trying to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. So understand that these are people with followings and putting it out on social media. Think about all of the thousands of people that are sitting back that are not trained, that do not do this at a high volume level and don't have skill sets developed yet, that are attempting to close these exact same deals. These sellers that are getting cold called and direct mail over and over and over again, the reason why they're responding negatively is because they're not enjoying these conversations. If they're truly motivated to sell this property and they need us as a solution, they would have sold their property to the first couple of people that came along and offered them the right amount of money and solved their problem. So understand when they say, oh, I've been getting a ton of calls from you guys. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. I tell each and every seller when they say that, well, this is going to be the last one you have because I'm going to buy your house. Let's get down to what I need to do to buy your house right now. It immediately breaks the ice. It's a little bit humorous, but I'm also dead serious when I say that. I plan on being your last conversation that you're going to have with any wholesaler. So let's get down to it. How much money do you need? What else is important to you? What's your motivation for wanting to sell? What's your timeline? Give me the details that I need, and let's talk about what I actually need you to sell me the property for so I can solve each and every one of your problems. So going forward, don't look at, oh, you're just another wholesaler. You're just another real estate investor. Look at it as a massive opportunity to crush your competition. All right, let's talk about another very common one that comes along simultaneously sometimes to, oh, I've talked to so many of you guys, which is the lack of trust because the seller has been burned by another real estate investor or another wholesaler previously. Now, if this happens, what a absolutely glorious opportunity it is for you to build credibility with the seller and stand out from your competition. One thing that is obvious, especially if they use the legitimate term of wholesaler, is now they understand the process. We don't really have to explain it in layman's terms. We can just go right after. Okay, so another wholesaler locked up your property. They weren't able to move it, so then they burned you and they terminated the deal. Let's talk about that. One, this could mean that you were selling the property for too much. Two, how did they explain that they were going to wholesale the property to you? Did they explain what they were doing to wholesale the property? How long did they have the property under contract for? Do you know what price they were trying to assign their equitable interest for? You're suddenly now, with those 5 simple questions, building credibility as the real estate expert and understanding what's taking place. So one of the things I love to get out of a seller is the price in which the wholesaler had it under contract for. Because typically, if it's a deal and you're even a half-ass wholesaler, you should be able to dispo it. Somewhere, especially with the software that exists nowadays, you should be able to at least identify a buyer that will come along and make you an offer. So did the wholesaler try to renegotiate the price? Did they try to extend? What was the explanation that they gave you prior to terminating the contract? All of these questions are vitally important because once you get the responses, you can now dive in and say, let's see if using the exact same process as that competitor who burned you and terminated this contract, maybe I can solve your problem. Maybe I can see where they messed up. And this is where utilizing our profit calculator can be enormous, right? All right. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I'm looking at is you have an after repair value of $150,000. How much repairs do we need? 30,000. All right. And you're saying that wholesaler had it under contract for 80 and they were trying to assign it for 90. If I were to do that, my end buyer only stands to make X amount of profit. Maybe that's the reason why this deal wasn't moving. Once you give that explanation, you have now explained more than what that other wholesaler probably ever attempted. They probably came in with lies, manipulation, and saying something along the lines of, I needed a lower price because of my lender or my partner or the contractor bid came in too high. and they weren't transparent and real about what was going on. This is how you can win over and over and over again. And honestly, stand out from the competition, because so few people in this industry are willing to have that actual conversation. This is the buyer's feedback. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we can do. If I were to get this under contract right now for $70,000 and I were to market it for $80,000, I can get buyer feedback. I can get offers from buyers and then tell you what that is. I'm going to know what an investor is willing to pay for this property. So if that's what you truly need, then I can offer that to you, and then we can make a decision together. Here's what I would want for that. I would want to make $10,000 or $12,000, whatever that number is. It should be relative to the price point of the property. And once you explain that, that's your opportunity to then have a completely transparent transaction with the seller. Now, this is going to become more and more necessary and mandatory for all wholesalers as we see regulations like Oregon come down on wholesalers that are making you register as a registered residential wholesaler. They're making you get background checks. They're making you do fingerprints, making you pay $300 annually. They're making you fill out a disclosure with the seller and the buyer. All this is saying is we want transparency. So it's going to become more and more common that we're going to have this conversation. So go ahead and get out in front of the curve and start having those types of conversations and leverage the weak-ass competition against themselves. Anytime I hear I've been burned by a wholesaler, I know I'm closing this deal. This is not something that should hold me back from closing this deal, because I can now have a completely transparent and forthright conversation with this seller. All right. Let's talk about the seller self-destruction. Sellers sabotaging their own deals with unrealistic expectations. Now, this one is a little bit more difficult to overcome than some of the previous ones that we talked about, because this is where a seller just is in outer space, unrealistic, right? I want 10% non-refundable EMD. I want no inspection period. I want a lot more money for my house. I want 90-day lease back with no money held in escrow. These ridiculous requests. Here's what I ask each and every seller when they have these unrealistic expectations. If you were to take this property on the market and list it with a realtor, do you think you would get these exact same unrealistic expectations? The answer is no. More often than not, retail transactions have pretty cut and dry normal circumstances, right? There's going to be an inspection period. It's probably going to be 7 to 10 days. EMD is going to be refundable during the inspection period, non-refundable after the inspection period. It's probably going to be closer to 1%, not 10%. A 90-day leaseback with no money held in escrow is not going to happen. That would the realtors involved would not be doing their fiduciary duty for their clients. These are all easily overcome. So you just combat it with what happens during a normal retail transaction. Now, we're dealing with normally a distressed property. So why? Because it's a distressed property when it probably needs even more due diligence done to truly understand what's going on with the property and to also solve all of the other sellers' problems. Why would we not protect ourselves in this transaction? If the seller is not willing to meet you on that level, then my question to you is, why would you want to be in a short-term marriage with that seller? You should probably move on to the next one and embrace no. The next one, seller timeline manipulation, right? What happens when a seller says, I want to wait 6 months to sell? Or, well, I've got to find another property and I need 90 to 120 days to figure out where I'm going to move to. We've all had those conversations, and sometimes it's extremely frustrating. Here's how I immediately cut straight through that objection. All right, so you need 6 months. What do you need during those 6 months? Hear what it is and say, all right, so my question is, if we were to just put the closing date out for on or before 6 months to allow you to do all of those things you just said you needed to do, wouldn't it give you peace of mind to know that the property is already sold and we're just waiting on you to accomplish those actions? Very similar going back to Teresa. Yes, I had to beat the competition, but part of beating the competition was timeline. She needed 90 to 120 days. A lot of wholesalers look at that and say, I'm not going to contract it right now. I'll wait until you're 30 days out. No. Time kills all deals, especially when we don't have any interest in the deal. Them filling out a form or you swiping your credit card on Property Leads or Leadzolo or Speed to Leads website does not give you interest in that deal. You having a conversation with the seller gives you no interest in that deal. You getting a signed contract, however, does. At least it gets us in our foot in the door, and we understand where we stand in this transaction. We can begin doing our recon and even begin doing dispositions. So overcome that by saying one of the things that we offer is convenience. Convenience on timeline. I don't need to close in any specific time frame. So whatever time frame you need, we can put the closing date down for that and close when you're ready. Maybe even before the time frame you're anticipating today. The last one is the seller fortress. What happens when the seller will not give me key information I need? This is when you say, well, tell me a little bit about what you got going on. And they go, well, what do you mean by that? I got a 1,200 square feet. It's a house. It's a good house. It's on a corner lot. Well, what do you need to know? All right, why don't you come out here and look at it? Make me an offer. I tell each and every seller when they do that. Well, I just asked you how much you wanted for the house. You gave me a price. Say it's $200,000. You want me to strike you a check for $200,000. I asked you, tell me what's going on with the house, and you say, what do you need to know? Here's what I need to know. I need to know the condition. I need to know your timeline. I need to know the occupancy. I need to know why you're wanting to sell the property. I need to know why $200,000 is the price you came up with, why that's important, how much money you need to walk away. And also, quite frankly, I want you to sell me on the house. Tell me why I should give you $200,000. Sit back and see how they respond to that. Here's what happens. More often than not, it shows how serious you are about the transaction, and you also gave the seller your perspective. A lot of times, sellers are only thinking about things from their perspective. I want $200,000 because Zillow told me my house is worth $200,000. And last night, when I filled out this form and I went on Zillow, I told my wife, Zillow says our house is worth $200,000. Being a hard ass has always worked for me when it came to negotiations. So that's why I'm being a hard ass right now. But you give them the perspective of $200,000 going to them for this house and not knowing the condition or the timeline, which could be important to them, how they came up with that number, what specific amount do they need in their pocket from this transaction. That perspective change can really make a difference. The bottom line is, if a seller is not willing to give you key information about the property, then we can't move forward. You should stand on that hill and be willing to die on it. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you're not willing to talk to me and give me key information, then I don't think we're the right fit. And we're not going to be able to do business. Because honestly, it's screaming like there's something wrong that you don't want to disclose to me. Facts are, if you start pulling away, if the seller is truly motivated, they will chase after you. And if they don't, then at the end of the day, maybe they weren't the right seller for us, because the most important factor to each seller call is their level of motivation. So this is a great test of their motivation early on in the conversation. So those are my examples of the seller psychology. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's open up for Q&A. All right, I've seen a lot of comments coming through while I was going through that, but I didn't want to stop while I was doing it. So I'm going to go back up here to the beginning, see what all questions you guys got. Right now, you have a seller or cold feet with a contract in his email for the price he wanted. So on this, one, you need to have a conversation with them about what is the reason for the cold feet. Is this the one in Topeka, Kansas? If it is, then that's a good price, right? We need to understand, is there something else that he's looking for? Was it a timeline issue? Is it a credibility issue? The other thing is, have somebody else call the seller and have a conversation with them. I think you were going to dispo this with Danny Herman. Maybe Danny needs to call that seller and ask the seller point blank, what can we do to get you to sign the contract? Lady told me $250,000 after discovery. An expectation setting, we have a walkthrough schedule and offer well under $200,000. That's exactly right, man. Good job. Being transparent and explaining the process multiple times is a huge game changer. Been implementing this more lately. Keep doing it. Should happen on all of your calls. Some folks try to flip it like, well, you called me, what's your offer? I did call you, but there's a reason why we called you. It's because something stood out about you wanting to sell the house. So I'm interested in buying it, but you're still going to have to sell me. All right. Ishmael said, makes them doubt the other investor's offer. It gives you more credibility. Absolutely. Had a seller yell at me yesterday because of the low ball offer from the previous wholesaler. I just sat there and listened until he was done explaining. So what's funny, whenever I get that, what a great moment, right? It's not fun, but this is also same day as Teresa's conversation. I talked to a seller who said, I talked to two previous people earlier today, and I hung up on both of them because of the low ball offers. So as we started going through, the price goes from $225 all the way down to $160. The other wholesaler's offer was $135. So the seller has now dropped herself down $65,000. And as we're going through, I realized that other wholesaler's offer was pretty decent. It really was the correct number. And so I asked the seller, I said, why did you hang up on the other wholesaler that offered you $135? And funny enough, she then explains it had nothing to do with the $135 number. It had to do with the games, the fake underwriter, putting her on hold and needing to go. She goes, this person treated me like I was dumb. I'm not dumb. I've been a licensed realtor for years and years and years. I know what's taking place right now. And so because of that, she hung up. But the immediate response was it was because of the low ball offer. So again, just sitting back, listening, asking questions, you then find out, and then you're able to leverage that against our weak-ass competition. Frank said, because I didn't ask that question, I lost a great deal. Frank, I don't know what the question was specifically because I'm going back in the comments, but man, that sucks. I hate to hear that for you. But it's a lesson, right? It's a lesson. We don't repeat it. So we move on to the next one, and we never relive that moment. I had one seller say she signed a contract 2 weeks ago for a 30-day close. She has not heard from the investor since she signed. I suggested for her to get in contact with them. Yeah, this happens a lot. And honestly, it's crazy to me. But, dude, we had a situation where a homeowner actually lost their house in foreclosure. We actually got in touch with the other wholesaler. He was a young kid, and he was just like, listen, man, I'm super busy. And I just, honestly, we forgot about this deal and was just kind of nonchalant about it and was like, if y'all want to take it over, I mean, you can, but I think it's just going to get lost to the auction. And the literal explanation was just like a shrug of the shoulders and just was like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This is the reason why there's wholesale regulations coming down, because of moments like that. And so, Ishmael, I think you did the right thing. Hey, you need to get in contact with them. The other thing that you could have done is say, would you like to sign a backup contract with me? We could go under contract. I can be in backup position behind this initial buyer. And if they don't perform, then I can perform. That's a solution that you can provide there. I want you to come look at the property. So the way that you overcome that is, I understand that you want me to come look at the property, but I can't change my process because of something that you want. And here's the reason why I have this process. One, if we agree on a price today, but then you tell me you want me to come look at the property, you could change your mind. And I could waste all my time, effort, energy, and resources to come out there and view the property, and then we have no binding agreement. However, we have an agreement in place, and then I come out and do my due diligence, and everything that we talk about today is what it is, then we'll be good to move forward at that price and on your timeline. But if I come out there prior to that, there is zero protection for any of us. One, you don't know if I'm going to show up. Two, I don't know if you even want to sell the property anymore, if you're going to sign an agreement or not. But if we have a legally binding agreement in place, only one of two things happens. I either perform or I don't. That's your risk that you're taking. That you've sold a house, you have a legally binding agreement that you can hold me to purchase the property unless I choose to terminate for the things disclosed in the contract. I had one today where she was unable to open the Dropbox email to sign, so I'm sending a notary to her to sign during a walkthrough inspection. Well, that's a great solution. Ishmael, what I would ask, did you try to walk her through it? It's hard. Funny enough, I had to do that in the 2023 Closers Olympics to get the seller to sign the contract, right? So sometimes it's just not achievable, right? I mean, if they're elderly, they don't understand technology, that just happens. But I love the fact that you got a solution in place. You got a notary out there, and you're getting it solved. Great job. RJ, this business surrounds a lot of trust. And I remember asking you a question around the corners of this, but what made you gain your trust of people, courses, mentorships before calling? Well, I only bought one course ever. It was the $65,000. And basically it's because I watched enough in their low ticket offering, right? They had a free event and then a $1,200 2-day course. And I watched enough of that to know, like, I'm just going to get enough to be able to, I trust myself that if I get enough information, then I'll be able to succeed. The course itself was horrible. The information that was given was not great, but I learned what an assignment was, what a double close was. I understood the terms ARV, maximum allowable offer, all of that. So I gained enough information to be able to go take action and succeed. At the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to courses and mentorships and all that, listen, the information exists. Kente, you found the right place. I mean, you're here. Titanium University is waiting for you whenever you're ready, and you'll get everything that you need. As far as anywhere else out there, I can only speak about the experience that I have heard from other people. Some of them have been great. Some of the courses and the mentorships out there offer things that are different than Titanium University, right? Whether it's learning creative finance or learning how to flip houses or do novations or do wholesales, there's people out there succeeding with that. If you want to learn how to close deals, how to comp and underwrite correctly and be a virtual wholesaler, then we're the place to be. I can promise you that. And you know that by attending all of these Tuesday lives and probably the other content that you consume on this channel. But at the end of the day, I mean, you just got to sit down and be like, who is consistently saying the same things over and over and over again, right? If every single week it was like, hey, sign up for a new product, use this new technique, change what you're doing, and the message and the alignment of that didn't add up, then that's where you got to start questioning things. I noticed that you covered objections with sellers stating that they've had a lot of calls from wholesalers. How do you get them to stay on the phone or call you back? Sometimes they won't even give you a chance to speak. I keep calling people who say they get these calls all the time and ask me to leave them alone or cuss me out. I haven't gotten any quality people who are ready to talk, make decisions. So, Jasmine, it sounds to me like you're probably cold calling. And so if that's the case, then yes, that's an issue with cold calling, and that's what you're going to experience. Now, if this were an inbound lead, and they were to say, hey, I'm getting a lot of these calls, well, then you've got to overcome that right then and there, right? Well, obviously you haven't sold the property yet. And you do need to sell the property, right? Well, let's see if we can be a solution for you right now to end that. The quickest way to end the calls is by selling the property. The calls are never going to stop, right? Until you do that. Now, cold calling, it's a lot harder. You just got to overcome it by saying, hey, do you need to sell the property or not? If they don't, all right, I'm out. I'm removing you from my list. Referring to sellers because we all are right to have the fear of what if this, or if I get scammed or don't get the full value of things, not being you, of course. I don't think I quite understand. I think that was going back to the other one. I don't quite understand that question. Do you give a referral fee if I get your partner a listing? I'm an agent in Virginia, but I call in Texas and come across sellers that should go retail. Yeah, we can do that. That it has to be done the correct and legal way. There's things that have to be done there from a realtor perspective. Cassie would know more about that. But yes, if it can be done legally, then absolutely, we would always give a referral fee. For real, I was thinking I can't sign with her until her current contract has been terminated. I'm following up with her on Thursday, so I'll offer it to her. Yeah, definitely do the backup. I just had a seller agree to a price and just had to speak to the wife. Wife ended up saying that they looked up my LLC and couldn't find it, so they won't move forward with the agreement. What do I do? Well, if you have an LLC, you can easily just send over the LLC docs. Every LLC can be looked up under the Secretary of State website. So you could send that over. You can also send over any LLC docs that you have. You can send over when the entity was created. You can send over, I mean, honestly, any of them. I mean, you have to supply the LLC docs to the title company. I have no problem with anybody looking at my LLC docs. It's irrelevant to me. There's nothing private in there. So just make sure, it doesn't have a social security number on there or anything like that. But I mean, honestly, just boom, here you go. I exist. And then the other thing is if they really don't want to do it under your LLC, you'd be like, okay, well, can I just do it in my personal name? I mean, if it's honestly, you cannot overcome it and it's just done at this point, go in the vault and be like, hey, I got a seller ready to sign right now, but they don't want to sign with me because they felt like something was wrong with my LLC. Who wants to call a seller for a split of the pie and close it? I'm beginning to hate real estate. 5 years, no deals, and I'm angry. Hold on. Randy, say this respectfully. You're wearing the wrong hat, brother. Like, I can promise you that there is no way in the world that you would be in the titanium realm and go for 5 years and not close a deal. If you show up, I'm going to show you how to close some damn deals. I give it to you. Go download the toolkit, get the King Closers formula, watch the videos, go watch my foundational elements, get some leads, use Lead Zolo, Property Lead, Speed to Lead. They're $30 products. Use the Closers formula, use the web formula, and you will close deals. It absolutely is possible. There are people closing deals literally all across the world inside of TU. A gentleman from Israel, who he is one of several members in Israel, just joined us last month, and he locked up a deal today. He's been in there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and he's closing a deal from Israel in Louisiana today. Like, I wish I could help you, but I don't have that opportunity to be able to help you just directly just through YouTube. That's why I give so much away. I can't actually tell you what the issue is. Hey man, I'm a cold caller. I've been doing it as a side hustle, and yesterday I just closed my first deal for $220. ARV's like $340, but I found that my call has improved significantly after I found you. I appreciate that. Great job. Let's get that deal sold. Great stuff as always. Your Stars faltered big time, but my Oilers faltered one series later. Yeah, man. Stars broke my heart, but it's all right. Next year's the year, baby. RJ, what in your opinion is more valuable, your content with the course or the community? The community. Yeah, I mean, listen, the course itself is just like pointing you in a direction and being like, hey, here's the framework, here's the skeleton. This is what you're supposed to be doing. But then being involved in the daily implementation calls and being involved with the other community members and growing and working alongside them, doing deals together, that's there is no price for that. I mean, you go talk to the people inside of TU and they'll tell you, it's ridiculous how cheap it is for what you're getting. It's a lot of love, bro. About to be 18 soon, so I'm legal to wholesale. Next question is to you. Do you often do sub-2 deals wholesale wise, and how do you feel about them? No, we don't. We don't wholesale sub-2 deals. How do I feel about them? I mean, listen, sub-2 has its place. I did a live the other day about it. For us, it's very simple. What triggers sub-2? Low to no equity, financial distress. It has one of those two elements, then it triggers sub-2. As long as there's an underlying mortgage, which it has to have, otherwise it couldn't be sub-2. And then what's the exit strategy? Exit strategy first, understanding that. Majority of the sub-2 deals that we have done and will do, we will keep ourselves. Ever felt like you didn't have enough investor comps to underwrite a deal, and so what'd you do? Well, yes. I mean, we have a ton of videos about this, but one, go after the ARV first. Two, then look at the as-is comps. If you don't have enough, I always start at a quarter-mile radius, half-mile, then a mile, then 5 miles. If I don't have enough inside of a 5-mile radius, then I'm going to come back to a quarter-mile, and I'm going to expand my time frame from a year to 2 years. And then from there, I've got the 2 years. I go from a quarter-mile, half-mile, mile, 5 mile. And if I don't have comps in that, like 5 miles in the past 2 years, well, there you go. You probably shouldn't do the deal. What do you say to a seller during follow-up when you previously talked to them and they have motivation and a high price? Well, one, Dan, humor is a great way to break the ice. Randy Charlton inside of TU, longtime titanium, just family member. He posted inside of TU's group last night, actually. He was like, hey, Dan, just wanted to reach out and see if you still need to sell that house. One, just click one or two. One, you don't need to sell the house anymore. Two, you've been abducted by aliens and you still need to sell the house. And the seller responded back too, right? Sending a funny meme, sending a funny GIF, right? The skeleton sitting on the bench, right? Casper the ghost, sending emojis. Just don't do copy and paste. Hey Dan, just reach out and see if you still want to sell. Hey Dan, just reach out and see if you still want to sell. Leaving a voicemail. I have a video on my channel about Chuck Norris, where the seller's name was Chuck Norris. So I called him every day, day after day after day. Finally, I left him a voicemail reading off 5 cheesy Chuck Norris jokes. He immediately called me back. We contracted the deal. So humor is a great way to do that. Creativity. Show who you are. It builds rapport right out of the gates. Just had a call. We're on the exact same call. So it's 2 callers and a seller. How do you navigate a house that's being fought over? Well, if there's 2 cold callers, I mean, at the end of the day, like I talked about it with the competition earlier in the video. I mean, it depends on what's happening. I mean, if you're saying you're on the call with this, I don't quite understand it. We're on the exact same call. I mean, that's weird. I've never been on a 3-way with another investor. I think I understand it. I was calling this guy and another cold caller reached out. So mid-conversation, we started negotiating our prices. Well, the seller gets to watch and sit pretty. I never had that happen. And I would point blank just say it on the phone. Like, I'm not going to negotiate with my competition on the phone. Listen, if you want to talk to them, you can talk to them, but I'll talk to you after. But I'm not gonna have this conversation with my competition on the phone. Can you please do an updated ARV comp session? Yeah, we could put that in the pipeline for sure. Is there any other videos you have on comping and underwriting besides the one that Cassie did in the courses? Yeah, brother. There's live videos of me and Cassie comping together. Just go to the live section of my YouTube channel and scroll down. Anytime between 2023 and today, there's multiple comp videos. There's a where in buyers buy. There's 2 or 3 Cassie comping videos. There's me and Cassie comping together. There's all kinds of videos on that. Do I JV deals? Yeah, just email jv@titanium.investments. How do you get past the need to show my lawyer objection? Easy. What is it that you want your lawyer to look at? Is there something in the contract that you don't understand? Because from my perspective, I've had a lot of sellers say that they want their attorney to look this over. They're going to pay the attorney money to then look this contract over. The attorney's going to come back and they're going to redline some lines and they're going to want us to change it. But at the end of the day, the contract still stands to be the same. All it's saying is I'm going to buy your house for X amount of dollars in this time frame at that title company. Isn't that what you want to happen? So I have the right to renegotiate the price. You can say yes, or you can say no, and I can decide to move forward or terminate. That's what the contract says. It's very forthright about what's happening here. So my question to you is, what do you need that attorney to look at, and why are you willing to spend the money to have an attorney look over a simple 2-page agreement? And what happens if that attorney says to change 1 or 2 lines on the contract and I say no? Are you not going to move forward? See what they say. You also brought up the hedgehog concept. I remember asking Tyson Smith a question around the same to you. But as you 2 good men get older and in a retiring stage, brother, I'm very far away from retiring, okay? I'm older than you, but I'm not old, okay? The skin's still looking good, all right? They ain't got that much gray. To just let apartments pay you? No, I'm not. I have no intention of getting into multifamily and having apartments pay me. I have no intentions of retiring anytime soon either, man. To be 17. Getting the inbound leads would be something I would need to do. I've done one deal before, but I haven't been able to get anyone. I love your course, but can't afford it yet. Any tips on how to get those inbound leads? Closing a deal can help me get the money needed to help continue with titanium. Cold calling is tough. You're right. Cold calling is tough. So, yes, Jasmine, you can go to kingclosersformula.com/fleet. I will put that in the chat. This will give you links to all of the inbound providers that we have, that we use, okay, inside of our own business. The ones that we specifically use every day are LeadZolo, Property Leads, and Speed to Lead. Now, my suggestion with you would be to look at the discounted options, which are going to be Speed to Leads Coupon Club, $200 a month, $29 a lead. Property Leads, exclusive, $30 nationwide leads, or LeadZolo's Marketplace, which is $35 and up, and it's just a bidding system. Randy, I don't know where you went, man, but some people are showing you some love in the comments. Taylor, looking forward to seeing you on Monday, brother. As I work and get ready to pick up a blue-collar job, I want to use that skill to pay my way into your course in education. Looking highly likely to be joining in 2026. What's your range based by then? It'll probably be 7,000 to 8,000. There's also payment plans available. Keeping sub twos to yourself is my strategy too, and it's incredibly smart to do. There's something unethical about wholesaling subject to deals, in my opinion. Some gurus are raising a crowd of unethical buyers. I would agree. RJ, how do you beat the allegations people will throw when they make the claim? If it was really as it is, why would you show people what you're doing for free and compare it to people with rich lifestyles? If it was really as it is, why would you show people what you're doing for free? Well, for one, I mean, I enjoy doing this. Like, I like making the content. I like being in front of the camera. I like helping people change their lives. I tell people all the time, it feels great when I help a motivated seller. Like, it feels great. And at first, it was a high, right? I mean, it was a dopamine hit to be able to help a motivated seller, say, pre-foreclosure, losing their property, emotional situations that we saw. But knowing that now I've helped thousands of people be able to help tens of thousands of sellers, like that's legacy type stuff. And that's what I talk to my family about. I talk to my kids about. Me and my son, we went golfing on Saturday, and I was talking to him about the importance of our actions and our words, and how ultimately my words over the past decade have supported our lifestyle. And when you say people with rich lifestyles, that's a unique perspective. I don't live in a mansion. I don't have sports cars or anything like that. I have everything that I want, and I do everything that I want. I live the lifestyle that I want. There are things that I'm striving to get towards, but it's not because I can't. It's because I haven't found what I want yet. And I think it's very important to understand that when people throw out allegations like that, especially towards me, it's an irrelevant statement to me. You're missing the point. I look forward to working with you and like Antoine and the Taylor Fords and even Randy and Trey. Like I want to change those people's lives, because if I could show, you know, Trey how to come in and talk to sellers and comp and underwrite and provide good deals to end buyers, and he starts doing that on a high level, think about how many people's lives he impacts. Every time we have a transaction close, there's a motivated seller, there's an end buyer that gets a good deal, a title company that makes money, more often than not, a lender that makes money. There's money moving through our economy. There's then vendors that get support throughout that, whether it's contractors, HVAC technicians, electricians. You're talking about wanting to be an electrician. Imagine how many electricians have been hired from the deals that we have wholesale. I mean, it's the impact that we make. That to me is the reason why I have no problem showing up and giving it away for free. If we go back 10 years and I give you 30 grand today, what are you doing with it to grow or kickstart your wholesale business in the most practical way? If I had 30 grand and I'm back, I'm one. This is not like a cheesy answer. This is like legitimate. I would join TU and I'm going to buy Prop Stream. I'm going to have Resimply and I'm going to have Leads. And that's it. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. You know, eventually I would start dispoing my own deals. And so once I start dispoing my own deals, I would invest in easy REI closings for the TC. I would invest in investor base, investor lift for dispo. But early on, I would just JV it just like I did. Those first couple of years, I mean, I think we JV'd probably, 200 deals. So we didn't do any of our own dispositions for the first couple of years. I would probably do the exact same thing and be off to the races. Hey, RJ, I'll be receiving the pictures on a property I sent to your team for a potential JV. I'll upload the pics as soon as I get them. Awesome. Appreciate you. I resonate with your content more than sub 2, and I wish I would have known about this in 2021. Spent $10K to realize that I'm not a good storyteller. Randy, do me a favor, brother. Send me an email. 5 years. I will fix that. I can promise you I will not allow you to go 5 more years, and I will not allow you to walk away from this industry saying, I hate real estate. How can you tell if you have a good deal on the coupon club before you make the call? Antoine, come on now. You ain't paying attention. I've told this, and you're in TU, damn it. Motivation, condition, location. Are they motivated to sell this for a discount? Vacant, non-occupied property, emergency reasons, tired landlord, financial reasons. All right, could need to sell for a discount. Condition, does it need repairs? Because if it has that motivation and needs repairs, now we know they're probably motivated. Do I have 2,000 buyers? That's the location. If so, swipe. If someone wanted to connect with landlords or asset managers open to upgrading their buildings with smart systems, where would you say the best leads come from? Brokers? No. Events? Probably not. Cold outreach? Yeah. If you're needing, if like in that specific, then yeah, you're gonna have to be doing cold outreach, because realistically, all you need is to land a couple, and then you've got like big clients. You can have pure intentions, and people always still find something to complain about. Just got to ignore the bullshit, focus on your goals. Facts. Acquisitions VA for 7 years from the Philippines. I want to do wholesaling myself because I've been closing deals for my clients. I'm just afraid to be cut off because I'm not from the U.S. Oh, brother, we have plenty of people. We have people in Israel, Bangladesh, Nicaragua, Colombia, Brazil, Germany, Ukraine, Italy, Australia, Egypt. We have people all over the world that are doing deals. So we can absolutely figure that out for you. If you're ready to go, I mean, dude, I'd love to have you in TU. We show you how to rock and roll. You've been cold calling? Yeah. Let's get you some good leads. People are concerned about this economy and the way that it's going. Some people. Is the statement real estate can never go away 100% true? Yes. And does that go into term in a wholesale if something was going downhill? It went downhill in 2022 and we survived. It'll go downhill again and then it'll go back uphill and it'll go down. Listen, you just got to adjust. That's all it is. We're not all just going to fold and just go away. I mean, that's just not going to happen. If we were to have something as bad as 2008 and 2009, then yes, many people would be out of business. That's absolutely a fact. But if you are prepared for those moments, then it can be a transition of wealth into your bank account. iSpeed to Lead just had a $2 a lead deal. Do you think it's an awesome? Yeah, I mean, whatever that deal is probably something associated with like older leads. But yeah, I mean, there's still sellers in there that need to sell. What do I think about PropStream buying batch leads? So funny enough, I made a video in 2020 when PropStream lost its ability to comp properties. And I went on and I called it PropStream retired from comping. Went really hard in the paint against PropStream because I was big into batch right then. We were using batch leads for everything. Got a ton of people sign up for batch leads. Really hurt PropStream's feelings at the time. I've had a bunch of laughs and jokes with the PropStream team over the past couple of years about it. And when this news broke, well, actually not publicly, but when PropStream was, it was official, they actually reached out to me and they asked if I wanted to break the news. And they were, kind of like, hey, this could be a way for you to make up for that video you did back in 2020. I chose better. I chose, all right, I'm probably not going to do that. But, it's not surprising. I think the batch team always had the intentions of wanting to eventually exit the company, get more into the business-to-business data side of things. I'm happy for Jesse and Annie and Evo. Known them for many years. We were close friends, for a while there. So I'm happy for them. I don't know what the arrangement was. I hope they made, great money. I know they worked their ass off for many years, and batch was a huge part of, Titanium's journey from 2019 through early 2023. So a huge part of you guys, this content, the original 50-50-50 came with using the batch product. Me getting into education was directly from a conversation I had with Jesse Burrell. So, I'm happy for batch. I think long term, all that this is really going to turn out to be is like a PropStream is just going to get a little bit better. And I don't know that it makes a huge difference for the industry or anything like that. Hi, RJ. Is seller finance really the best option for a seller, even if you agree on paying 20% over the market value? And no, seller finance should be if it's truly the best thing for the seller. I definitely would not agree to paying 20% over market value over 10 years. I wouldn't do that. I've never done that. I don't know who taught that. That's definitely not something that I would do. And I definitely don't offer seller finance on the majority of my leads. I don't think you need to. Exit strategy first. I can't wait to get this property I just fixed and flipped off my books. I'm going to make nothing, but I learned a ton. I learned never to fix and flip. I'm going to hit a wholesale and hard. Want to join TU. This is a very common trend. I'm dealing with a couple of TU members that are dealing with that right now as well. So looking forward to having you in the family soon, and hopefully we can get that deal done. How do I feel about expired listings? I mean, if you're cold calling or doing direct mail or something, there's value there, but there's also a reason why the property didn't sell on the retail market. It's probably because the seller wanted too much money or it was unreasonable, and so it is a harder closing process. Yeah, the $2 speed of leads are from January this year to like June. I think it was that they were never closed. Yeah, it was great. The speed of lead make wholesaling sort of easier. Yeah, I mean, all PPL makes it easier, right? Speed of lead, lead Zolo, property leads. It's way easier. We used to have to like work to find the leads and then close. Now we just close. Seller called the title to cancel the sell. He won't talk about why, but the liens on his property were $20K, but now are $40K. So he'd only net $20K, which isn't enough for how much he wanted. What would you do? I mean, that's a tough situation because right, the seller had a certain amount in his mind, but the main issue here is if he won't talk to you, then I'd probably terminate the deal and then keep following up with him. Maybe also have somebody else reach out to him, talk to him about the situation. What is he going to do? Because now that the liens are $20,000 more, it doesn't mean his house is worth $20,000 more. And this is where a lot of sellers get really confused. And so if he won't communicate with you, then I would have somebody else reach out to him to at least have that conversation. But at the end of the day, I would probably just terminate the contract. Again, I'm not in the business of trying to force people to sell me their property. I'd like to ask you about embracing being the buyer. If you do the direct mail, you usually get the question, how much do you offer? And I feel like I'm the one who would say the number first. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think direct mail is the most expensive form of marketing. And I also think it's one of the most ineffective forms of marketing, right? I mean, if we're hoping to get a 1 on a great campaign, 2% response rate, that sucks, right? Average cost per contract is going to be a lot higher than the majority of the marketing efforts nowadays that are, utilizing technology. There's better ways to do it. So yes, it is hard to embrace being the buyer. But if I were doing direct mail today and a seller were to call me, then I just want to verify that you do want to sell the property. How much would you like to get for the property? So instead of saying what's your asking price, how much would you like to get? Then tell me a little bit about what you get going on. If they're like, well, I just want to know what your offer is, which happens in every lead generation form. You just simply explain like, well, I don't know how much I can offer you yet because we have to go through a series of questions. I have to understand the full situation, right? And then also, anytime a seller really hammers me about how much is your offer, I always ask them, do you think that I'm going to offer you more than what you're asking? Because I can promise you that's not going to happen because if anything, I'm going to be conservative with my offer until we have a conversation. Oh, Fernando, man. See, we wanted to get you into TU, but see, we can't let everybody into TU because then it would lose. See, we can't have like Eli Manning's and in TU. We can only have Tom Brady's. And so because of that, like we're gonna have to blackball you and you're not allowed into TU anymore. What do you think about ARV times 90% minus rehab times 2? I don't use that formula. I have no thoughts. What's TU cost on average? Well, it's not on average. I mean, right now it's $68.99. That's the full pay. There's $6,899, and then we have a 2-pay, 3-pay, and a 4-pay plan, which we do charge interest on that. So it's a little bit more, but it's like, proportional to that price. I think it doesn't exceed $8,000 on the 4-pay plan. So $6,899. That's lifetime. Get you into the course, the community, the implementation calls, comp portal, all of that stuff. All right. Man, you guys came in banging with the questions today. I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed the content, the Q&A after. I love doing the Q&A with you guys on Tuesdays. It's kind of an evolution of the Tuesday live, so I really enjoy that. Antoine says, one more question. If only Antoine could hang out with me every single day, how would I process the payment for tomorrow? Anton, man, email students at titaniumvault.com. Come on now. You know the answer to that. Love you guys. Make sure you like the video. We'll see you guys tomorrow.